Hi, I'm Mitch Resnick, Professor of Learning Research at the MIT Media Lab, and I'm delighted to be joining you for the Playful Schools Conference. I'd like to start by making a tribute to my dear friend Carla Rinaldi, who passed away last month. Carla was an inspiration to so many of us who care deeply about children and play and learning. For many years, Carla's been the leader of the world-renowned kindergartens and preschools in Reggio Emilia, Italy. The Reggio schools serve as wonderful examples of playful schools, creating environments where children can further develop their creativity and curiosity and imagination. In the Reggio schools, play is not just an activity, it's an attitude. You know, if you visit the Reggio schools, of course you'll see children laughing and smiling, but even more important, you'll see them experimenting and taking risks and trying new things. And for me, that's the essence of play. It's a key ingredient for developing creativity and curiosity. Carla was always inspired by children, and in turn, she inspired us. I remember a few years ago being at a seminar that was organized by the Lego Foundation where we were discussing the role of play and learning. At the end of the day, Carla stood up and she put her hands together and she said, "Play and learning are like the wings of a butterfly. There's play and there's learning, and they're intertwined, and neither can exist without the other." And for Carla, many things were intertwined. Play and learning were intertwined. Art and science were intertwined. Schools and community were intertwined. And education and politics were intertwined. For Carla, educational, issues were always political issues. Uh, as you might know, the first schools in Reggio were started in 1945 as a direct reaction to fascism in Italy. And I think that Carl always continued that tradition, always pushing for education to be a force for democracy. Now, 80 years later, when authoritarianism is again on the rise around the world, I think we need Carla's ideas and Reggio ideas more than ever, and I've continued to be inspired to try to carry out her vision. I think my own work has been deeply inspired by Carla and the schools of Reggio. I named my group the Lifelong Kindergarten Group because I wanted people of all ages to experience the same type of learning as the children do in the kindergartens of Reggio. Um, you know, I think that it's so important for children, not just in kindergarten, but as they grow up, to continue to develop as creative, curious, caring, and collaborative learners, just as they do in Reggio. I think those qualities are essential for young people being active participants in a free democratic society. I also think that those qualities will be more important than ever as new AI technologies proliferate through the culture and through the society. Young people need to develop the most human of their abilities, the abilities to be creative, curious, caring, and collaborative in order to thrive and to be happy, in a world that's, full of, new technologies and fast changing. How is it that we can help young people continue to develop these qualities? We sometimes talk about it in terms of four qualities, four guiding principles that all start with the letter P in English: projects, passion, peers, and play. That is, we need to engage young people working on projects based on their passions in collaboration with peers in a playful spirit. That's what you see in Reggio, and that's what we want children of all ages to be experiencing. Unfortunately, after kindergarten, children usually don't get to participate in education this way. They spend so much time filling out worksheets, listening to lectures, and in that way, they don't continue to develop as creative, curious, caring, and collaborative learners. And we want to change that. So in our group, we're always thinking about how can we, engage children in new types of projects, passion, peers, and play. And one way to do that is providing them with new materials and new technologies to expand the type of things they can create and what they can explore. As children grow older, they need new types of tools, but the core idea is the same, that they're going to learn by work on projects based on their passions in collaboration with peers in a playful spirit. One project that my group has worked on in this spirit that I think carries the Reggio tradition up in age to older children and with new technologies is a project called Scratch. It's programming language that enables young people to create their own interactive stories and games and animations. It's used especially by young people ages 8 and up. And now more than 130 million young people around the world have created projects with Scratch. And in the process, they develop those qualities that we've been looking for. So let me show you a brief video that shows how Scratch is being used in 3 different countries around the world, in South Africa, in Lebanon, and in India.
Scratch is not like a computer language to me. It's more like my diary. I get to do my own story.
It's more about your imagination because there's no limit to it, so you can do mostly whatever you want.
إنه نحن هم صرنا ألعاب هونيك فينا نفوت على ألعاب بس هون فينا نحن
Here the children have just been playing games, but with Scratch they can create their own games. They take control of the technology. They're in charge.
बच्चे अलग-अलग तरीके से अलग-अलग मॉडल्स बनाए.
In this community center, the children are exploring environmental issues in their community. So again, work on things that they really care about, that has a purpose in their community. They're worried about environmental issues, so they use the technology to explore those ideas. Now, Scratch has been incredibly successful around the world, and we're so proud of how it's supporting young people, developing their creativity and curiosity while learning new skills in the process. But there's a limitation. We developed Scratch in more than 20 years ago, and at the time it was only for laptops and desktop computers. It doesn't work on mobile devices. But of course, today many young people only have access to mobile devices in many places around the world. So in the last few years, my Lifelong Kindergarten group has developing a new platform called Octo Studio, developed specifically for mobile devices. So with Octo Studio, young people can use mobile phones and tablets in order to create animations and interactive games, and also to take advantage of the special qualities of mobile devices. It's been exciting to see the wide range of ways that young people around the world are using it. I'll show a video here that shows some of the ways that young people can use mobile devices with Octo Studio to explore the world and create new worlds. So they can shake and tap the phone, they can sense things. They can take the phone with them out to the world, capture images from the world, put a few blocks together and make an animated story come to life. Embed the phone in physical devices like a frisbee to make a steering wheel, or with cardboard to make a story inside of a house. Turn the flashlight on and off. Use the shake sensor to play a game. Send signals from one phone to another. Or make an interactive birthday card for a friend. Turn it into a video and send it to a friend. So it's a way for young people to be able to really, take their own interests and play them out in the world with devices that they have access to. Let me tell you the story of one girl in Brazil who's using a prototype version of Octo Studio as we were developing it, because we were trying this around the world. We tested it out, especially in places where mobile phones are the dominant type of technology that people have. So this was in São Paulo, and Ana Carolina was an 11-year-old girl, and she was living in this low-income housing project with her mother and her sister. And the housing project had a community center where Ana Carolina met one of the graduate students from our group, Teo, who introduced Octo Studio. And Teo asked Ana Carolina, what is she excited about? What does she care about in the world? And Ana Carolina said she loved looking at birds outside the window, from where she lived. So she started making an Octo Studio project. She took a phone, grabbed an image from outside the window, and then got one of the emoji birds from the image library and wanted to bring it to life like the birds that she saw. When she first tried to program it, she wasn't very happy with the results. This is what happened. The bird just went directly across the screen, And Anna Carolina said, well, that's not how the real birds go. With real birds, they go this way and that way. I want that to happen. So she then learned about a new command, the turn command, that she could make the bird turn as it was moving. So she changed her program and came up with this motion, and she was much happier. She was excited, and in the community center, she showed it to her cousin, David, who was also at the community center, and she explained how she used turns with angles to make the bird fly in a realistic way. And David was very impressed with Anna Carolina's project, and he said, when my teacher talks about angles, it makes no sense. You should come teach my class. So he appreciated that she was learning these important mathematical ideas, but using them in a meaningful way. And Anna Carolina said, I can't wait to show my mom. She's going to love this animation. So again, with this, Carolina was able to connect with her passions, but also build relationships with other people. And I think that's exactly what we want to support with Octo Studio. As I mentioned, we've tried this with different partners or educational partners around the world. Let me show you a video where some of those partners are talking about, some of the things that they've seen as they've tried out Octo Studio in their settings.
Octo Studio brings the opportunity to kids to be creators and not just consumers of technology, because they can create their own stories and animations.
The majority of my youth, they don't have Wi-Fi at home. They don't have laptops or desktops. Most of my youth have access to a cell phone. That means they also have access to Octo Studio. And what that is going to do is spread the love for creating.
We took a group of students to a hill, and we asked them to take pictures of nature and then to start doing their own project. The outcome was fantastic. We truly believe that going outdoors is the way to go.
I love how one of the educators talked about spreading the love of creating. And that's really our goal. If we want kids to be creative, we need to help spread the love of creating. In that last example, you saw children in Chile taking the phones out to the world, exploring the natural environment. And we've tried to build on that. We've made a relationship with National Geographic to help children explore their world. National Geographic has a network of explorers who can share their stories about how they explore the world. And we've then made resources to help students and educators explore their world by thinking of an animal or exploring things in the local environment and making them come alive with Octo Studio. So with Octo Studio, children can explore their world, but they also can connect to the world. Here's an example from a workshop we ran in Korea, where young people were integrating these new digital technologies with traditional craft activities for a new type of creative maker activity. In this case, they built dioramas. I remember when I was growing up, I always used to build dioramas in school. We would use shoeboxes and craft materials to develop scenes based on whatever we were studying. But these are new generation dioramas. They integrate mobile devices and Octo Studio to make the dioramas be interactive and dynamic. In this case, the children thought about animals and then developing different types of buildings or habitats where the animals would live. Here's an example of one girl who built an otter restaurant. So this was a restaurant that an otter created for other otters to come and eat fish. As you can see, there's an interactive story on the screen surrounded by the different tables made with craft materials. One thing that I think we were most happy with is that the variety of different types of projects that children did. Here you can see the wide range of different types of dioramas they created with different types of interactive dynamic scenes. For us, the success of a workshop is often our key indicator is where there's a variety in what children create. That when we see variety, we know that children are expressing themselves creatively and developing their own interests and their own ideas. And that brings us back to Reggio. I've always been inspired by the idea of the 100 languages of children that Reggio has embraced. The founder of Reggio, Loris Malaguzzi, wrote the poem, The 100 Languages, where he talks about this idea of children having 100 languages. He writes, the child has 100 languages and 100 hands, 100 thoughts, 100 ways of thinking, of playing, of speaking. But he was also aware that there were challenges, that school didn't always support this variety of ways of thinking and ways of experimenting and ways of exploring. Later in the poem, Malaguzzi wrote, "Their child has 100 languages and 100 more, but they steal 99. He was worried that traditional schools were stealing the languages, not allowing children to develop their voice, to develop their interests. And I think that's a real warning for today, especially with the rise of authoritarianism and the proliferation of AI. There are many forces that could make the children conform as opposed to developing their own voice, developing their own ways of thinking. I think we really need to support a creative learning movement around the world. It will require all of us, educators, administrators, parents, policymakers, to come together to make sure that all children from all backgrounds have the opportunity to develop their own voice and develop their own ways of expressing so they can be active participants in a free democratic society. Thank you very much.